Today in the studio, I've got Mr. Travis Roberts.
Hello,
Travis,
sir.
mate, good morning. Welcome.
Good
Thank
morning
you.
to
I
you.
don't even know it's not even morning, it's afternoon. Buddy, I am so delighted that you've made time to come and have a chat to me today. I don't even know where to start with introducing you because, mate, you're a gun for hire behind the wheel. You do work in movies, TV commercials, driver training, driver development. You just are cars, mate. I don't even know where to start.
Well, thank you, mate. I appreciate it. I have definitely surrounded my life full of cars. I've grown up at the early stages of cars brought into me and bred into me with my father, and it just is a passion that I've focused on for ever.
It's never stopped.
Ever since I was a kid.
Ever since I met you, I've never known a time where you weren't deeply involved in many facets of the automotive world.
Yeah. It certainly is something that I've focused on all of my life, and now I get the chance. I've got my kids. I've got my chance to share it with them as well, and they're loving every facet of motorsports as well. So I think it's probably a part of ADHD in me. Scotty, I
Represent.
Yeah, 100%. But I've never been one to just love one type of car or one type of motorsport. To me, everything that has to do with four wheels and an engine, I am absolutely in love with it. You know, whether it be drifting, racing, grip racing, rally, off-road stuff. Derbies, I love just getting out there and having a thrash with mates, on the off chance and smashing into each other with $50 bangers, So, and all the way up to working for Porsche as a driver trainer and rubbing shoulders with rich billionaires from Singapore. So,
It knows no bounds.
No, it doesn't. Certainly not.
Here's a question for you. Are you a late age diagnosis ADHD? Did you figure that out?
I am, yeah.
When did you find that one out?
It was in the process of diagnosing my son. So we went over to America with Luke for Drift Week. And on that tour, we spent 2 months driving around the whole of the East Coast of America, from New York, Massachusetts, right down to Florida and Georgia and Atlanta. We even went up to Niagara Falls. And in that process, Phoenix was very unsettled. And we found that there was some sensory issues there with him as well, and focus issues. He really hated stepping out of his comfort zone a lot of the way. And then when we got back, there was a couple of things that were said. Friends had said to me, "Oh, well, why don't you look into this? I think it might be ADHD. It's pretty common." And the more and more we looked into it with my wife, Sian by my side, and the symptoms, and the more YouTube you watch on different things, because there's so many good things out there that you can watch on ADHD. The whole time my wife's looking at me and going, "That is you. Oh my God, that is you. You're constantly doing that. You're constantly doing this." And I just found that at my age, it wasn't that common when we were kids. At my age, I found ways of working around it, and you put in different things to manage ADHD, and yeah. It was a revelation for me as well as my son.
And see, the reason I ask is I had the same light bulb moment in October last year.
Okay.
And then I've also discovered that all my favourite humans are neurodiverse. So all my friends and all the people I get along with best, we're all being diagnosed with middle-aged ADHD, and we're like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this conversation's going to be great for us. We're going to go everywhere.
Mate,
bounce from here to there to there.
We had the same thing with my son.
Yeah.
Struggling at school. He was really, he was having trouble concentrating, and the overwhelm and the sensory stuff, and all these little markers. And, again, the school was like, "Oh, look, you should probably get a few things tested, and sight and hearing and blah, 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 all the stuff."
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one was going and doing the testing for ADHD.
Yep.
And then, he does the stuff and we sit there as they're giving us the reporting and reading out each thing. And I'm sitting there going, hang on, wait, what? Hang on, he does what? Hang on, how come, what? And I'm like, you are literally just explaining me.
my life. Tick, tick,
I'm like, this
tick.
is me.
Yeah.
And I found out afterwards that it is now basically a cliche of the parent sitting there in that moment going, oh God. Like, I'm 43 this year, and I found out when I was 42 years old.
Yep, I'm 39, turning 40 in a few days.
And I could never figure out why I was so weird.
Yeah.
And so hyper-focused and obsessed and I can do 40 things at once.
But
if I'm not interested in it, I can't make myself do the thing.
Yeah, you can't relate, yep. 100%.
I have trouble posting a letter and stuff or, getting cohesive thoughts together.
Yeah, and, finishing thing.
Totally.
I think my father has it too. I look at him. He's in a generation of you really couldn't probably talk to him about that.
Oh God,
and
no.
I've never really said anything to him about that. But he is definitely the same as what I am. He's always struggled with finishing things. Really good at starting things, and has obviously been a massive influence on my life with in a good way. But there's the finishing things was something that I learned as a kid. That I didn't want to do, so I've really focused on making sure that I completed things.
And you got it
but
done.
I start so many things, and that's really hard.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Mate, I reckon I have 14 projects on the go just in the garage at this specific moment.
We can't count cars and working on cars. It's
revolting.
That's an addiction, that one. Yeah.
But it has been such a revelation because, I'm only just recently medicated because we were trying to figure out for 6 years what was wrong with me.
Right.
And I'd been medicated for SSRIs for anxiety and depression was what presented.
Yeah.
But the reason I never got better after 6 years of work was that we were medicating
the wrong thing.
Yeah,
okay.
So the lack of capacity to manage my own existence, which was the ADHD, which was then causing, because, the frustration of not being able to do basic adult functioning just ran me off the rails.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's great that you found it.
Mate, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
We first trialled Vyvanse for Phoenix, and then that kind of sent him a little bit too on edge. Yeah. And I think he suffers a little bit of anxiety as well.
Yeah.
I've never suffered from anxiety. I think that's that's a symptom I've never had. I've always been calm, cool, collected. I think probably because my wife suffers from anxiety too, so you kind of feel like you have to be that rock. That was getting him on Vyvanse. That was no good because it upped his anxiety as well. It helped, but it upped his anxiety. We've got him on Ritalin now, and it seems to be helping.
Yeah, you got to sort of trial them, and that we've gone through the same process. There's a real trial and error. I'm actually on the Vyvanse at the moment.
Yeah,
it's like flicking a switch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
It takes about an hour and a half to come on because I can feel it because I go from absolute potato with 8,000 thoughts running simultaneously to I can now do it.
There we go.
And you can feel it.
It's
and
an
it's
amazing
I
feeling,
transition in.
Yeah.
And I try to explain it to people. And I find it a very hard thing to explain. Whereas to people that get it, you're like, but it's like a Marvel superhero finally learning to harness your powers.
Yeah.
Rather than being out of control. If you've seen Frozen 1,000 times and she'd freeze all the things.
I have got a daughter. Yeah.
Yes, but then you get control of it and you can make all the beautiful things, and that's quite literally how it feels.
Yeah.
Is all these things that I could hit those states through my hyperfocus with the assistance of caffeine and stimulant to try and
Well, yeah, obviously a part of
crank
ADHD is that chance of addiction, or it's a lot higher. Caffeine definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the caffeine would always help me to get into the hyperfocus state.
Yeah,
because I'd have so much trouble getting going.
Only last about half an hour, and then you're looking for another cup.
Oh, absolutely. I'm at 10 a day.
Yeah.
And now I maybe have one, and there's no hanging for it. I just enjoy it.
Yeah. So
because I hit that place, and you're like, oh my god!
Yeah.
Imagine how much easier the previous I don't know if you had the similar thing, but, at school I was the classic, if only he could apply himself.
Yes, all the time. Whole way
If
through.
only he could apply himself.
Yeah,
And
well,
I'm
it was sports for me. Like I was lucky enough to have sports when I was a kid growing up, and well, because you're good at something, then obviously everyone goes, oh yeah, he's gonna be this. So the sport was something that I could hone my skills on, and I think that kind of taught me mechanisms to cope with ADHD. But for every other subject, it was he's quite a good kid.
Very
in this
bright.
class, very bright.
Very bright.
He is an intelligent guy.
Yeah.
He just doesn't apply himself.
Can't apply himself. And you're like, it's not that I can't apply myself. It's just that I think this is shit.
I don't want to do it.
I don't care. I couldn't care less.
Yeah, correct.
And I couldn't if I couldn't engage with it, and it's even the same as an adult. If I'm not interested in it, I will do everything in my power.
Correct.
And luckily you get to an age where you can just pay somebody to do things you don't enjoy doing anymore. Like that's the best bit about the grown up stuff.
Yeah.
But it's for me it was also no longer beating myself up, going, why can't you do this?
Yeah.
I just can now accept that. No, that's okay.
And that's where you got your anxiety from?
Absolutely. The anxiety was from going, well, you're just lazy, mate. Stop being bloody lazy. If you stop being lazy and just apply yourself, you'll be able to get through this.
Gotcha.
And that cycle, because again, don't have to tell you, running your own business is,
Yep.
there's
Three businesses.
Mate, there's a lot of things you got to do. And, lots of them are pretty crap.
Yep.
And that was a really relentless cycle that only, amplified as, fatherhood and all those sorts of things as well.
Dealing with ADHD at the same time.
Absolutely. Because you could sort of, I better scaffolded it before that. I sort of had mechanisms in place.
Yeah.
But trying to be a dad as well, and the not sleeping and the
all
that's where the wheels
amplifies
fell off the wagon.
everything.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But and it's hilarious. Like I was catching up with another one of my mates just the other day because I do work for his business, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've just started on Ritalin," and I'm like, "Yeah, bam, good on you, mate."
Light switch, light bulb.
Yeah, light bulb. And he's like, "Oh my god, I can write an email now."
Yeah,
you can sit down and do these basic tasks.
Yeah.
But the best part is for our children, and this is the thing I'm actually most excited about, is that we can advocate for them, to help them. And, with my son, I sit there and, we talk about it. And he goes, "Oh, Daddy, it's my ADHD." And I'm like, "Yeah, buddy." Because I'm like, Dad's got that too.
Yeah.
And we
That's
can talk
helped
about
Phoenix
it
as well.
and we can relate it. Absolutely. Because it's not some weird outlier. It's like we can draw a straight line between
it's not taboo.
Pa, Dad, and the little man.
Correct, yeah.
We can see the correlation.
Well, it's
here.
important to talk about those things, especially with your kids.
Mate, it is. And, people are saying, "Oh, there was none of this years ago." Okay, that's because we didn't realise.
Yeah, we didn't. Correct.
There was no understanding, no discussion. And, as I
Just
look
parents
around,
tearing their hair out.
Going,
what's wrong with my kid?
Oh, God, what is wrong with this idiot?
Yeah.
Why can't he? And it's not that he can't.
Yeah.
Because I see it in my son. The stuff he's interested in, mate, he's off. And do you see the same thing?
Oh, yeah. It's like we were saying before, light bulb switch.
Yeah.
It's funny how kids can be completely different. Yeah, my daughter is completely different to my son, and the way that you deal, the way that you manage their emotions and the way that you manage their day to day is completely different.
Totally different
to each other. Yeah, my son's very affectionate. He tells me he loves me about 30,000 times a day.
What a bloody legend.
My daughter is, she is quite happy to just be doing her.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. She's a beautiful girl.
Yeah.
And it's just a different way of, when you talk to him and you want him to you want to motivate him, it's a very different way to be motivating Chili.
Yeah.
Because
I wanted my boy to know kindness. I wanted him to grow up, well, he's only 8, but, I want him
Starts
to be
early.
a kind man. Mm-hmm. I want him to understand himself, to know himself, but, I don't want him to grow up and be a fuckwit. I want him to be a kind, loving, open, man. That's my hope.
Yeah.
For him,
you can only hope for to guide them in that right direction.
And absolutely.
They carry that on.
Oh, well, mate, that's a hell of an opener.
We got deep
But,
already.
and again, that's kind of what I dig about these
Yeah.
conversations.
100%. Yeah.
Is it's such a lovely thing to be able to share with people, and particularly when you're comfortable talking about it, because I don't care. I'm delighted to share.
If it
these
helps,
things.
just one person out there go, oh, you know what? I think my son might, not have that connection with
Absolutely.
his brain.
Or maybe it's me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that was my big
The more
one.
you talk about it, the more things you hear, like watching YouTube and that
mate,
sort of stuff really opened up
massive.
my eyes. I probably would have never thought, never had a second thought about it. I just would have kept going on my own way.
Yeah.
And it was only until Phoenix, we experienced that with Phoenix in America, that I just, we knew that he had it immediately. And then when we started watching stuff to educate him about it, and that's when we went,
Yep.
that's you, mate. That's you.
That's the one.
That's you,
The
Trav.
biggest one that I always struggled with, and I don't know if you have this, but I only have 2 speeds. I have 0, I'm like sedentary,
Yeah.
or I'm at 100.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I have
yeah.
absolutely no in between. I am either full bore
Yeah.
or non-functioning.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're my only 2 speeds. I don't have the capacity to just potter along.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like whatever I'm doing with maximum intensity.
Well, yeah, that's a good way too. That's probably one of the positives of ADHD. I mean, there's a lot of positives too. There's a few
Massive.
negatives, but there's also, like, I find that over my years, the hyper focus that come out, with ADHD is it. I almost look at it as a superpower.
Totally.
In a way.
And that's how my son and I talk about it, because I truly believe that it is. Because I look at some of the things I've done in my time, and if I didn't have that just ridiculous off the charts dedication, because if you do the old pros and cons list, most of the things I set out to do never make sense. And they make no rational sense. If you show the accountant, he's like, you're a moron. I show the wife and she's like, you're a moron. Like, that's most of the ideas I present.
Yeah.
That's actually why I don't present half of them to her anymore. I just do it. And then she's like, you're a moron. And then, but there's always once people come around, they're like, oh no, that was actually a pretty good idea. I'm like, yeah, I know.
If I ever want to be talked out of an idea, I go see my parents.
Yeah, they're good at that.
No, it's funny when you get when you get locked in on an idea and your mind starts racing and you start writing down and you spend 4 days, just nodding out how it's going to be done and how it's going to be planned, and then you realise, it's probably soaked up a lot of time that I could have been focused on doing something else. And
you learn all these things.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Well, the hyper focus for me with driving, there's nothing else in my life that I hone in on more, and it's just a massive big tunnel vision. As soon as I strap on a helmet, or as soon as I get behind the wheel, I just find that everything goes out the window, and that's me. And we were driving home from a racetrack just yesterday, and a mate of mine, Shannon, he goes, "Oh, I'm so buggered, I'm so wrecked. How can you do this? Like, you've been driving for 2 days straight, you've been drifting, and you've been rallying with the kids, and you've been driving so hard. Now we've got to drive 3 hours home. Aren't you shattered?" And I said, "Mate, tell you now, that's me.
Magic.
When I sit in the seat, that's me." America was a huge eye opener for what I could tolerate physically and mentally. I'll tell you a story. We driving through the States for Drift Week last year. We spent 2 months, obviously going, like I said, up and down the East Coast. We the whole time we were driving 2 Corvettes. Luke was in one, I was in the other, and we had an Escalade with the kids and the wives in it. And we did well over, I think we worked out 10,000 miles or something like that just driving. It was huge. It was massive. And along the way, my Corvette broke down a lot. A lot. I had a lot of problems. What I'd done is I'd bought the car sight unseen because we were in a bit of a rush. We were trying to deal with COVID at the time and everything that came with flying out of the country. And so we put some time and effort, obviously, in finding the car, but what we didn't know until we got halfway through the trip was that the guy who'd owned the car beforehand had just band-aided everything at every track that he'd gone to. So it was a drift car that was already set up, had a cage, had handbrake, had all the essentials. It was basic setup in the NA, which we wanted for reliability. But yeah, it was only until we got to the track where we had mates come up to us and go, oh yeah, I remember that car sitting at Grid Life in the garage, getting worked on, and you start repairing the car and the fuel pump relays underneath the left-hand rear guard, where it shouldn't, there's like this wiring mess, and I rebuilt that whole car. The car did break me at one stage. I remember sitting in the pits at Hyperfest in tears because we just put a motor in at Atlanta. And I driven it 6 hours, 7 hours, stopped off at a mate's place, slept for 2 hours, and then got to Hyperfest, did a sighting lap on the Patriot course, and the front, so just done a fresh engine, the front pulley with the worm drive in the power steer pump fell off the front. And it's just a power steering pump, so it's quite easy to fix. It's just really quick, 3 bolts, bleeded the system up and away you go. There was we had contacted, I'd caught up with LZ, and he had one there with his Drift HQ company, because they were there, obviously had a stand, and they had a bunch of parts. So I was able to there was a pump there ready to go, waiting. We went down there, got the pump off Adam, and I put it on the bonnet and I couldn't change it. I looked at it for 3 hours, and it had only be because I'd done at the LZ Invitational in New Jersey, I'd done the wiring harness and the full rewire. When we went to Poconos, it was I drove down to Pennsylvania to a Corvette specialty shop to try and nut out all the glitches in the car, and then I drove back up the track, and I didn't even get to drive that track. Then we drove to the next track, which was Summit, and we did a power steer rack. The rack blew, and they're really hard to change in those. So we pulled the rack out. I got a couple of hours driving at Summit, and then we went to drove up to Thompson and had a fuel issue. Then nothing was related. So that was a pain in the ass, because it wasn't our fault that maybe you forgot to do this, but it was never something that was related to each other. It was always something different. So the fuel pump then wasn't feeding the fuel right, and we had to drop the whole tank out at a mate's place, Aaron Spiegel in Ohio, dropped the whole tank out and redid the fuel system. And so yeah, driving into Atlanta after a new motor. So for the trip, I had operated off sometimes I didn't get any sleep, but between 2 and 5 hours for the majority of the trip. So about a month and a half, 2 months. I'm the kind of guy. I mean, most people are too. You got to you have 5 hours, and if you have just under 5 hours, oh, you grumpy arsehole. I've done driver training days where we've done stints away for Toyota and Lexus, where you've only had 5 hours sleep, and I'm a prick to be around. I was a prick to be around until I did the American trip, where it pushed my limits so far physically and mentally that I know now that I can operate at no sleep or 2 hours sleep or 5 hours sleep and not be a dick. You know what I mean? It really opened up my mind to the boundaries of what I can do. And now, I look at driving down to Rayleigh for 4 hours. Oh, wow, big whoop, that's just down the road. You know what I mean? Or to me, Cooler Park was a mile away, 26 hours. But mate, after that, let's go. I'll go tomorrow. You know what I mean? It really stretched my mind and what I'm capable of doing.
Just all feels easy in comparison.
It does. It really does. Yeah, you have a trip like that, and it's even though it's heartbreaking, it was heartbreaking. But I quickly come, and it's funny how your mind works. I quickly come to the realization that the trip, I was so focused on my driving and driving with Luke, because Luke and I have been friends since 2006, and since Drift Fest years ago, we did the Calder Park Drift Fest, and we'd become friends then, and stayed friends ever since. the fact that the thing there though is that we don't get to drive together a lot because Luke didn't do any comps. Doesn't do a lot of comps anymore, and even when I go out to Archie, I'm usually competing. He doesn't compete in his comps, so we don't get to drive. So the whole purpose of that trip was to get some really good seat time together because we both like the way we drive, and it just wasn't the case. When I came to the realization that trip wasn't about driving and it was about making connections with really cool people over there, because I spent a lot of time in other people's garages fixing my car. You're asking big favours in that, hey, can I borrow your tools? Can I borrow your hoist? Can I borrow your spare car to go down to the parts? Like, we met a whole bunch of really good dudes. Aaron Spiegel, a friend, as I mentioned before, Aaron in Ohio, he threw me the keys of his C8 and goes, yeah, go get some parts down at O'Reilly's. You know what I mean? Like, you meet people like that along the way, and in my mindset, slowly realised that it wasn't about driving. It wasn't about seat time. I've had a heap of that over the years. It wasn't about that. It was about making those connections.
Sounds like a hell of a trip.
Oh, it was mega. It was mega.
And you'd know Corvettes backwards now, wouldn't you?
I do, yeah. Corvette connoisseur. No,
backwards.
I do. I've pulled one. That car I pulled down pretty much everything, apart from pulling the headlights out and the tail. Oh, actually, no, I had the taillights out.
Do you still own that one, or did you?
No, pissed that off. Fuck that.
It'd be a wonderful car now.
Well,
I'm sure.
yeah, it was a brand new car.
Yeah.
It was actually funny because obviously I'm a car. Like I sell cars as well as one of my businesses. I've got a dealership. I'd never had a sale on that. I'd never had a sale go much like the sale on the Corvette. We're in the car park. It was the Orlando round. So I'd finished the whole trip. We finished up in Florida and then flew back from Florida, from LA and then home. I got in the car there. So in a way, it was a huge accomplishment, to drive it that many Ks and have so many problems. I was broken down on the side of the highway, Scotty, probably over 20 times. And it's just me. It's just me, the car, a boot full of tools and some spares. So halfway through the trip, I just said to the girls and the kids and Luke and Russ that was with us, go on.
Yeah, you go.
I'm going to deal with this, because it at that stage it kind of become a bit of a burden. And I'm not that person. I don't want to put burden on other people. I want other people to enjoy their time as well. So I took it by the reins and owned it. By the end of it, broke me, but I owned it and got it to Florida. So the sale, this is how the sale went. The guy rocked up. I put it for sale online. He rang me up. He came out. He's a drifter guy who was obviously really wanting a C6. And I just said, mate, I have no idea why you're here. I said, have you seen any of our vlogs?
Have you followed this journey?
Have you followed any of this?
This thing's a shit show.
Yeah, see, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not a vlogger.
Yeah.
I've dabbled in it a little bit, but I just to piece everything together, it's a full-time
It's
job.
a lot of
I
work.
look up to people like yourself you've got so many aspects of getting a video right that along the way of editing, getting shots, getting the right point of view. So much goes into it. I actually recorded that whole trip. A mate of mine, Shannon, said, "Give me the footage. I'm going to edit this, mate, and I'm going to put this together. And this is going to be, obviously drama sells, but and there's a whole lot of drama along that trip. So he really wants to get the hold of the footage to edit it. We will do it one day. I'm not there yet.
Yeah, you're not ready yet. You're like, I don't need to revisit this trauma. Just give me a hot minute.
So going back to the sale, I said to the guy, mate, this is a heap of shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, honestly, I don't know why you want to buy it. It's a brand new car now.
Yeah.
Like I've gone through everything. Just as I was rolling into Florida, the radiator started overheating because of the rubber build-up on the air condenser. So the rub from drifting, it had already had a heap of rubber in it. It's obviously not for me because I didn't get to drive it that much. But, it just pulled it out. That was a friend of mine pulled that condenser out at a mate's workshop in the middle of Jacksonville. I pulled it out, I'd spent the whole day at his dealership. It's a friend of mine who I used to drive with at Movie World. His dad lives over there. He's American. and his dad lives over there. And I'm ringing him and I'm saying, hey, can you give me a favour, mate? Can I go see your dad? I actually planned to see his parents anyway and meet up with him because he was like, yeah, you've got to meet my dad. He's a legend. He's a champion, larrikin and all that sort of stuff. So I'd planned to meet him anyway, but I met him under the worst circumstances because the car's overheating. I pull into his workshop and then I'm just like, is there a place I can work on this thing, And so I spent the whole day that I was supposed to spend with him fixing this fucking car. And, eventually just pulled the air condenser out and fucking turfed it. And
don't need that.
So. And the guy, the guy just had rose-coloured glasses on behind the car.
Yeah, he
couldn't hand over the cash quick enough.
Really?
And you know what? I couldn't get rid of it quick enough. I actually have never had a car like that.
No.
That I couldn't.
I did.
It was possessed. I got on top of it. I'm glad I did because it didn't beat me. I beat it.
No.
A lot of times it did beat me. And you could imagine me just, sitting in the car park at a hotel, with the car stopped, or, on the side of the road, or, But honestly, you couldn't be in a better place to do that because America and their car culture is so close knit. Everyone's there to help each other out, and nothing's too big or small. And there's always a mate around the corner with a car trailer. That being said, we never had the thing on the car trailer.
Really?
Yeah, really.
You really should have.
Actually, no, once.
You should have got a trailer. Let's be honest here.
Well, Luke and I joke about that, after the fact. It did go on the trailer once. So when I blew the motor and I rocked up, I rolled into Atlanta, I went into the servo running on 4 cylinders, or we dropped lifters, and I didn't get out of the car. I actually got back in my car. It was on empty, running on 4 or 5 cylinders. I drove it down 100 metres and it stopped down. I was just lucky to get into the back of Pep Boys or something like that. The reason why I didn't get out of the car was I was told if you're at a servo, like in a bad neighbourhood, and you had you've got a car at the front where the doors are, and there's some shady people standing around, don't get out, drive away, because they're either trying to sell you drugs or they're going to jack you up. So immediately when I pulled into this car park at the service station in Atlanta, this guy beelined it for my car. Now, it's quite obvious that I'm not a local.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Corvette was fluoro green.
Yes.
And it had my big sticker of my face and Luke's face on top of the roof.
Subtle.
Subtle, yeah. But, we had some wicked conversations with just some randoms about the car. It was awesome.
Could only imagine when you turn up at that.
Yeah, it was crazy. But this guy beelined it over me. So car running, I'm like, I barely got out of the thing, jumped back in it, and as I was started to drive out of the driveway, the guy's running after me. Yeah, so I knew I knew that I was lucky to get out of there, and I'm just so lucky that I was able to keep the revs up and boost. Lucky, the Pep Boys that I rolled into up the road, it wasn't so scary because that's when the motor blew and we put it on the trailer. That was the only time I went on the trailer. It went from there to Kuru Works and we put a motor in it.
And so what did we learn from this, mate? We learned. Get a trailer?
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't think the experience would be the same.
Oh, no, well, it wouldn't be the same. No. I don't know what you would have done with all that free time. Just imagine the relationships you could have made then when you just went to hang out as compared to swearing at your car.
Yeah. It was a bit disjointed in the way that, like when we were hanging out with the boys from Drift Week, when everyone was out to dinner and having a good time getting on the piss, I was working on the car, and then when I wanted to have a couple of drinks and
everyone's asleep because it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Everyone was not around. Everyone was planning to go to the next place. Yeah. Oh, we actually got there a few times. Those arsies. We were in a pub at the very first leg of the trip, and they said to us, we had our kids in the pub, or in the bar. It was a bar, and our kids, it was 2 a.m. in the morning, our kids were asleep on the stage of this bar, and Shredder, one of our friends along the way, he did a hyperdrive series, Shredder. He said to us, "Man, what, you guys are crazy. You guys are nuts. That's you got kids sleeping on the bar, and on the stage. You Aussies know how to do this, like it's just like."
You have no idea, mate.
Yeah. This is a Tuesday night for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because where did that whole idea even come from? Like to go and do that? Because I remember seeing you guys do that and being like, oh man, jealous.
Oh, well, Luke had done Drift Week prior to that. He did the first one, I think, with Lone Star. And then, we did a trip up north. So we went all the way up to Airlie Beach and stopping off at Yeppoon and 770. And it was him, his family, another friend of ours, Shannon, and his family, and a friend of mine, Loki, and his family. We did a trip up north, stopped off a bunch of places, and we were talking about it at the pool one day, and we're like, yeah, we could make this happen.
Yeah, we should do this.
Figure out how to get around COVID and navigate that shit fight. So, yeah, we were pretty adamant that we weren't getting the vaccine, and we were on the left side of the field, and all of a sudden we're getting the vaccine to go to the States. So
yeah, they were pretty strict with that.
Yeah. Still got a cough.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Because have you been back since? Have you?
Not back to the States. We've been to I went to NZ and to help out Dane from Loco Customs. He had the opportunity to drive and share a car over there for the last round of D1 NZ at Bay Park this year. I've always wanted to go to NZ to check it, or not just to check out the drifting, but also to check out the place. It
Was this first time to NZ?
First time to NZ.
Yeah, wow.
Never been there. A lot of the times, growing up, I'd only go places if I was working.
Yeah.
So, whether it be driver training or drifting or anything like that. So, I had the opportunity. Dane said, "Hey, look, I really want you to come along with this trip, and I'd like to, have your input and on setup on this car and help me." Progress my driving. So I said, yeah, absolutely, mate. He's a guy that I work with closely with repairing cars with my dealership side of things. So if I've got any paint work, I've got he's one of 3 or 4 panel beaters that I outsource to, because like we were talking about prior to this
mate, you need good people.
Yeah, it's easy to outsource rather than have people on the payroll. So the dealership is a business that I pride myself in using the right people and having the right people around me. And he obviously wanted me to come over there with D1NZ, and I said, yeah, absolutely, mate. So we spent like 4 or 5 days.
Hell yeah, brother.
Oh yeah, what a trip day! And the New Zealanders know how to do it,
mate. How good's D1NZ?
Yeah, D1NZ's really good. It's actually the caliber of driving. So the cars are, very close to on par with FD. I got to see FD twice over in the States, and I'm a big time follower. Obviously, obsessed with drifting. So the caliber of driver in NZ, I feel, is super high.
They're phenomenal.
Well, SVG just won NASCAR.
Yeah.
First time in the car, first win. And it doesn't surprise me. SVG is a phenomenal driver.
Yeah, man's a weapon.
He's not the only one, though. He's not. It's not just him, and he's not just a freak. The NZ just breeds fantastic drivers. The caliber of driver.
They've got an incredible automotive scene over there. Great car culture.
Yeah.
And then they have had a functioning drift scene the whole time that ours has been like drunk and loopy and falling over.
Yeah, unfortunately. There was a 20-year celebration. I was over
of
there.
D1NZ.
Of D1NZ.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's 20 unbroken years, isn't it?
Correct.
Like
they had all the past winners there.
Wow.
There was Dana Templeton. There was Cole Armstrong, Gaz Wider. At the car, Gaz Wider's cars.
Yeah.
Stop it. It's naughty.
And Mad Mike as well, who's turned himself into, an international franchise.
Yeah, Mikey, yeah.
Again, out of the land
incredible.
of the long white cloud.
Mikey was actually here in Queensland. While I was over there in NZ, he was it was 2 ships in the night. He was there, and the level of car there as well. Like I'm looking at Pro Sport. It's a controlled tyre, 235 tyre in that series, and these guys are running Winters rears and rear-mounted radiator setups with 600 to 800 horsepower cars. They're not 150, 200, 300 grand in those cars. That are in Pro Sport.
Yeah, they're not mucking around.
So, like, to me, if I was to compete in pro sport or pro over there, it wouldn't matter because the level of competition is there on both sides, and they had full field.
Yeah, they're off the charts. I mean, I had the chance to go to D1NZ quite a lot of years ago. It was probably 2011 or 2012 thereabouts.
Yep.
And I still remember going there and seeing the level, and obviously the level of the racetracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like Hampton Downs was the one we went to,
Yep.
and we stayed on the track, and the fact that they've got
Hampton's
multi-level
pretty
accommodation straight above your pit bay.
Yeah, yeah.
And you live there at the track,
Yep.
above your car.
Yeah.
I'm like,
this is every boy's dream.
like, holy crap!
And the good thing, so we stayed with Sam West and his crew, and he was a legend. Big shout out to Sammy. He's a really good guy. He's only new to the sport over there. He was good friends with Dane, so that's why we stayed with him, and he was very accommodating. But yeah, again, most of the NZ boys were.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, if you want to come over here anytime, you can sleep on the couch or sleep in the spare bed. So I'd love to drive over there. I've I am exploring a couple of ideas of ways to go over there and do a series. Even their series down south is pretty good, pretty high. The great thing about D1NZ is that if you go compared to America, obviously that'd be great to compete over there and have a car there, but D1NZ has every track within 5 hours of itself.
Totally.
On
It's
the
so
North
easy
Island.
to get to. You
It's
can
so
drive
easy.
from the top to the bottom, east to west.
Yeah. So
And it's not that far, and
Yeah.
particularly given your love of distance
Driving.
distance hauling, you could do 2 laps just for fun.
Yeah, correct. So you've got all these great tracks, you've got all these fantastic drivers and a high level of competition. The only thing that I've found different with D1NZ and certainly America, and it's always going to be the case, is the exposure. I was looking at some of the caliber of drivers over in D1NZ and going, how has this guy only got 2,000 followers? And this guy is going to be he's the Pornberries, and the caliber of guys coming through. It's unfortunately the exposure I feel is lacking a little bit there. But for me, that doesn't change the price of chicken in China. I don't care about the exposure at this stage where I am. The people that I drive with and go up against and the level of competition and that sort of stuff is what drives me.
It's just going to take Netflix drift to survive. That's that'll be what turns it around. I mean, let's be honest, that's what turned it around for F1 because they were having the same problem where it was out of touch. People really hyper fans were interested, but they had no broad support, and that turned the dial to 11 for them.
Yeah,
because what was missing was the personal stories and getting to know the characters.
Yeah.
The way that the characters, and then seeing the whole soap opera drama play out.
Yeah.
And that's what is always missing from these things, is that people think that results matter, people think that the battles matter, and that stuff's important, but it's not what people buy into. Mm-hmm. They buy, all the most successful series, you think about The Sopranos or something like that, it's a pack of, gangsters, but it's a family drama.
Yep.
And you're following the intricacies of the drama, and that's what people buy into, that's what they relate to. And I do think it's something that's just broadly missed in motorsport, is that, people try and...
Because you don't generally miss it in drifting. Because it's a judged sport, there's always... There's drama. There's always drama. There's a difference between good drama and bad drama.
And see, that drama doesn't get outside the circle of people that care about it.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Because anybody who's not emotionally attached to that result couldn't care less.
It has just recently. Chelsea Denofa over in New Jersey. So that was, I think, good or bad, the way you see it is up to you. Chelsea's a friend of mine, so I'm a little bit biased.
Sounds like it. I can hear the passion.
Yeah. So Chelsea, just to paint a picture, you can certainly look at this afterwards. But Chelsea had a battle up against Stuckey and didn't put a bonnet pin in the bonnet one of his crew members had let the bonnet pin out, but absolutely blew Stookie away in the battle, and it certainly didn't detract away from Stookie or didn't balk him or anything like that. The rules are rules, like the fact that the bonnet was flapping around a little bit in the rule book says that you can't have that. Obviously, it's a distraction to whoever, the other driver behind it. So I think what happened was Stookie's spotter obviously saw that and protested, and then they got to rerun. And the drama that happened out of that with Chelsea going over to their team and, telling them to pack their shit up in the trailer and go home. I absolutely owned you and all that sort of stuff. Whether you, I don't know, there's a couple of different ways of looking at that, whether you think it's right or wrong, but he certainly brought the passion into it, and it was a whole lot of drama, and brought in a lot of other people, I think, to FD that wouldn't normally be there because they're like,
absolutely.
oh man, how good's this series?
How good's the circus?
Well, that's what NASCAR's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, mate, totally the same. And
people going toe to toe, trying to punch each other through helmets.
I follow Formula Derp quite closely, and I must say Formula Derp has been one of my favourite sources of coverage.
I've only just got on to Formula Derp.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Look, I got to be honest, I try and steer away from that. I don't need the drama to draw me into it.
Yeah. Because you're obsessed anyway.
So, I will watch every round of FD, America, D1NZ. Because I just love different driving styles and different
I must recommend, though, when SEMA rolls around, Formula Derp's coverage of SEMA is the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So they're responsible for calling it the Overfender Nationals and like really in-depth coverage of all the Bluetooth connectors in the builds.
Yep.
And, mate, I've been following that for a couple of years now, and it's just magnificent. So
all right, I'll go check it out.
It has me in tears, particularly for SEMA, because you know it's coming.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, SEMA's another animal in itself, but if it's for good reasons or bad reasons, if it brings people into the sport, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, and getting them attached to the characters and getting them, getting them bought into that. But I don't know if you watched any of the F1 on the weekend. I stayed up far too late on Saturday night, and I was watching the sprint. And I don't know if you caught any of that, but like if your wheel stepped like a centimetre out on one of these corners that kept catching the fellas, like that was your lap cancelled.
Oh, wow.
So like mega lap, but like 1 centimetre over the line on one corner, bam, doesn't count.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. And
I'm there going, ouch.
Yeah,
ouch.
That's tough.
Because it was a full noise, huge power.
Well, I wanted to watch the SVG win, because I've seen everything in my feeds, and SVG dabbled a little bit in drifting, but it's not why I follow. I've worked with SVG before, in the driver training realm, and he spends a lot of time at Norwell, so we've talked a lot, and I really wanted to watch a replay that I got on the KO, and because we share KO in our family, and my middle boy Wiley was going, oh no, I don't watch KO anymore, so I've cancelled it. And I'm like, thanks, mate. So thanks, Wiley.
Yeah,
cheers.
You couldn't even watch the magic
unfold.
Yeah,
but so now I've got to buy KO myself. Look, but yeah, there's that much feed coming through anyway on Facebook and Instagram that I probably don't need to watch the race. I'll probably watch it in its entirety over the feed.
And the highlights were pretty good. I mean, he really did put that together nicely. And the celebratory burnout was,
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it was good to see.
It was nice to see.
Yeah.
That's some pretty solid
He lit it up, didn't he?
Oh, mate, absolutely. I'll be honest, I think he could have held that a bit longer. It sounded like either something wasn't happy or they told him to get off it.
Yeah.
It felt like it stopped
doesn't sound like the American way, though. I don't think they would have told him.
I wanted to hear those, eagles screaming out of the V8. Mate, we digress. Things I was really interested in talking to you about was how you even got started in this journey, because I was really keen to sort of go back to a young Travis Roberts. Mm-hmm. So, even around that 2006 era, that when you started getting involved I guess.
Well,
in more of the
2000,
motorsport side, or was that-
no, 2006 wasn't. That was when I went down. My dad said, if you win the Queensland State Championships, I'll pay for your ticket down to drive. To drive your car down to Drift Fest.
Really?
So Greg Cruz from GK Tech put on a big event down at Calder Park called Drift Fest 2006, and it had a drift event in amongst the music festival. So he had 2 stages going. It was a huge music festival. Unfortunately, it didn't go as well as Greg had planned, and lost a lot of money from it. I know that he spent a long time recouping, and it's good that he's got a business now with GK Tech doing really well. But I wish we had more events like that. It was something that you would definitely see over in America, and they just have the population to pull it off. But my journey started when I was 8 or 9, probably about the same age as my son now. And I grew up in the middle of a car wrecking yard. So we had a house that had 10 acres down at Yatala, just behind the drive-ins, and 800 dead cars and going cars around on the block, eagle wrecking. And we had a house in the middle, and every Saturday I'd walk down to the letterbox and I'd get the mail and I'd drive back up, because it was back then you had people leaving cars at the front gate because it actually cost money to get rid of the cars. So every Saturday we would normally have 1 or 2 cars down there that were going because they'd been driven there and parked up, and so I would drive up, and that was my weekend. I would spend driving around the wrecking yard, so in between all the 800 dead cars, I had my own racetrack to test, and I was always getting in and out of different cars, and because there were cars that were on their last legs of their life, Dad didn't care that he was coming back with a damaged car. He actually probably didn't have a clue how much damage was on the car, because he hadn't seen it until I come up for lunch, after walking down to my jammies at 7 a.m. And then he gets his car in front of him. That's the first time he's probably seen it. So that's how I spent my upbringing. We had go-karts and motorbikes, but from an early age, I was driving manual stick, and we later on built jumps and did a lot of dumb shit there. We moved from there when I was 14, and moved into suburbia. And as soon as I turned 18, I went back out and renovated the house, and had mates of mine come live with me, and we do derbies. A derby, we were always driving. We did a derby for my annual derby for my birthday, which is like a big bash. Everyone came in, brought cars. It just started with 5 cars, but just my close mates. It ended up being a motor video DVD where we had 30 cars. We had full coverage of this thing, and it got wild. Like Andrew Hawkins he lived with me when we were younger, with another friend of mine, Peter, and a few other. We always had boys that were either in the drift scene or up and coming go-karters or whatever. Kind of staying with me at the yard, because where else do you go? And you just didn't care. Like with the cars, you could get it wrong, realise that what you did wrong in that last corner, wasn't right, because you've written off the rear quarter or smashed the headlight or whatever. We got really good at changing wheels, so that's probably why drifting appealed, because we always had tyres coming off beads, and you'll learn how to drive a car on 2 rims and 2 tyres, so. And the way it carried on and that sort of stuff. I think that's what helped me be able to step into all different cars and not just be good at one car or one kind of discipline of motorsports. And that's where my passion comes from. I probably could have gone down the rally road, to be honest, and be just as happy, rather than the drifting side. But yeah, I've enjoyed every moment of it since, mate. It's like
So much makes sense off the back of that story.
It was a great upbringing, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And now I get the opportunity to do it with my own son, like I did with my two other boys too. So I've got two older boys as well, and they went through the same experience. So when I moved out to the wrecking yard, renovated the house, and then I met my wife, and she had two boys already, Coda and Wiley. I took them on when they were 6 and 3, and they got the same experience that I got because when Coda became old enough to be able to reach the pedals and drive and see over the dashboard at the same time, he was doing the same thing because we lived out the wrecking yard up there until just we moved about 12 years ago into another place, but for their childhood they spent it out the wrecking yard and having fun, bashing around, exactly the same as what I did.
Is that still in the family? Have you still got the yard?
We just sold it. Yeah,
just sold it.
Yeah, so Dad actually squashed all. He didn't realise he had 800 cars. He'd go, I think I've got 400 or 500. There's cars lost down the back in the bushes, and he ended up kept pulling cars out from everywhere, every nook and cranny, and like he is a hoarder, like to the nth degree. Like we still had HR Holdens and combis and
what a treasure trove.
Yeah, there was. There was. But the thing was, they'd been raped and pillaged. There was probably bugger all left on them. There was just a shell, but because he, they'd been there for so long, he couldn't get the mustard to pull it out and do something with it, or because he just hoarded a lot of things. Tell you what, it was a fairly lengthy process to get him over the line with having to get rid of squashing all that because he sold the property.
Can't imagine.
Yeah, he sold the property, and I had to help him with that process. It was certainly a big mental thing.
Oh, it'd be reasonably traumatic.
It was.
That's everything you've ever known.
Actually, that's probably the way. That's a good way to put it.
Then you've got to tear it all down.
It was a little bit traumatic
because it would have a comfort to it.
Exactly.
Because you know that, back left, walk for 3 minutes, turn right, and then there's that one.
It took me a long time to understand how he thinks in that because,
Well, there's a comfort in that. And again, if he has, similar neurodiversity, he would, in what others would see as chaos, he would see functional order.
Yep,
and
definitely.
that would help keep him...
Yeah. Yeah, it was a peace of mind for him, for sure. So yeah, he did that. We did that a year ago, and that's pretty much how it started. We got into drifting because as soon as I turned 18, I bought a go-kart and joined the Gold Coast go-karting club, and I did a couple of race meets, and I enjoyed every moment. It was awesome. I'd always like when growing up, we'd always done go-karts. I'd always had like we didn't do it competitively, but every time we did hire karts and that sort of stuff, it was a constant thing there where I'd get the lap record for that month or for that period. There was. Without sounding a bit douchey, I noticed that I had a knack for it because you see the times up there, and it was always for me that to beat that time was always a real awesome challenge for me, and progressed my driving by pushing the boundaries and always chasing to be better and hit a corner better and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I bought a go-kart, quickly realised that I can't do this by myself because Dad, he was always obsessed with his business and the cars and wrecking them out. So when I came to go-karting for myself competitively, it was just me. None of my mates were into it. They were into the cars, but they weren't into go-karting. And I'd rock up and pulling a go-kart off the back of a ute with it's tough work. You've got to have people around you that are passionate about go-karting as well for you to do well. So a bunch of my mates had got into street drifting, and that's how that come about. I went out with them, and I found, there was another 15, 20, and it started growing 50, 80 people with these, drift meets that we used to go out to with Club Empire back early in the days. They were actually a show car club that had me, Andrew, and Peter join up, and Andrew just took it in a different direction. So he actually had this shiny, beautiful 200 SX. It's the same car that he has now, Jet 200, and he had that way back then. He lived in WA. He brought that car back over with him. It was all shiny with nice flames. It was all show, no go. But once we started, us three started getting into the drifting side of things. This is 2000, so this is as soon as I got out of it's early. There was this was before any drifting meets or even street stuff. Track stuff. No track stuff had existed at the time, and Club Empire, slowly went from a showy kind of car club to a drifty kind of car club because of Andrew, Peter, and myself. And we built cars. I had a 32 Skyline. Pete had his Sylvia, and Andrew had his 200 SX. And we just, every chance we got, we raided the tyre bundles at the local tyre shop and went out and put them on rims and street drifted. And then from there, QR come about with Drift Zone. We started drifting up Queensland Raceway, and then the Super Drift and Drift Australia started popping up in the national series, and we'd learnt that drifting had been exposed down to, this is before internet, so drifting had been exposed down the...
We're back on boost cruising days here, mate.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's Club Empire, I haven't heard that in a long time, because I remember that. Oh, man, I'm OG boost cruising.
Yeah, no joke.
I'm member number 3,000 something, I think. I'm reasonably early.
Yeah. Oh, really? Well, that was the way we communicated on forums. We had,
that was how I found other car people.
Yeah, exactly. Secret Drift, we were one of the original members of Secret Drift, and Tyson and everything, what he was doing. And once it started to stretch out and branch out into, it was happening down in SA and New South Wales, and we started to put a comp together. Obviously, Wayne Boatwright put Drift Australia together with Super Drift, the feeder series. It's funny, we look back at that now, and geez, we had some good times back then. We didn't realise how much it took to put on an event, because he made it look so easy. And Andrew did a great job with ADGP as well.
Oh, massive.
Yeah, he kind of took the reins.
He did a bloody brilliant job, because I was involved in that whole thing.
Yeah.
Basically from start to finish, with different drivers.
Yep. Yeah, with Josh.
And it was amazing.
Yep. Yeah, Archie was, Archie came onto the scene, I think, probably 2005, 6, I think.
Yeah.
Because I drove the first comp there. Wow. And I drove the last comp too. So, I placed in the first comp. I think I got third. I ended up taking out the Archie series when it was about. But I actually enjoyed the Queensland stuff more, Queensland Raceway stuff more, because obviously it was a bigger track. You could go high speed. And that's why I enjoyed top third, fourth, smashing in the corner and hoping for the best. So, won the Queensland state titles and the Friday night drifts. I think it was probably 2006. That's when we went down to Drift Fest. Dad said, "Oh yeah, I think you might be good at this. I'll help you out," and paid for me to go down to that comp. I placed a lot in the Super Drift. Never did the full series because I just never had. I was always broke mechanic. So living on meagering noodles, paying for $600 worth of tyres. when you start to get over using second-hand tyres out of the pile, and you realise, oh no, I need to be competitive, I need to have brand new tyres. That's when you start paying for it, and you start skimping on food, putting money in the cars. So, yeah.
It's a tale as old as time itself.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Yeah. I won't be the last. I won't be the first. I won't be the last.
Oh, mate, there's no shortage of fellas still doing it now.
Yeah, the great thing was that last comp that Archie came, I didn't place, but I came up against the guy who ended up winning it, and in the top 8, I come up against Cheney Heathcote. I just said I've got a 370 banger, the missile car that I've got now still, and he's got 800 horsepower S13. 370 fares all right against a most, but when you come up against a good driver and a good car, it's when you've got to really be
That's
on
hard.
it. Yeah, you got to take them down. Got a heap of practice laps though with Saito, and Saito's been around for as long as I can remember, so it was really cool to drive with him.
No, that'd be special.
Yeah, it was special. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that man can wheel a car.
Yeah. So definitely, it was good fun.
That
And he
was
was in
cool.
Luke's 370 too, so that was
That's
fun.
so cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Can't believe you were there for the first one and then the last one.
yeah.
That's
yeah.
reasonably poetic all by itself.
It is, yeah. It was cool. Stadium drift was awesome too. They had stadium drift at Parklands.
Well, that was massive for the Queensland scene. The fact that we
It's
had
huge.
that, that was the joke, Queensland, the drift state. 'Cause
Yeah.
We just had so much going
on, yeah.
And we were the envy of the southern states
Mm-hmm.
because there was just something on every week.
Really were. Yeah. Yeah, it was good. When they put, I remember doing drift demos, like the car park in the Broadwater. We did a big comp there, I think, one year off the back of Indy. And the feel, it's awesome to know that we got so much reach on something like that, because you had people that were fans of motorsports that hadn't even heard of drifting coming in and watching these guys just rip up the car park, tandeming, 2 inches away from each other and switching back and, close calls and
I
damage.
was at that one.
Yeah.
I think I've actually
That
still
was
got video footage of that.
Amazing
Believe it.
event. You remember, I just remember people everywhere.
There were people everywhere.
It felt like tens of thousands of people.
And it was FMX as well, and it was
Yep.
just madness.
Yeah, it was good. It was nighttime event. I remember. Yeah, it was mega. It was mega. And the race line stuff that they did at Parklands there. That was a great series. I think I won that series as well. And all of that then kind of came together just at the right time that they started Movie World. And they started Movie World's show, their Hollywood Stunt Driver. So they had the Police Academy show first, and then obviously they had ideas of putting on this car show, and big goals to hit with making Evo 10s, slide, rear wheel drive and slide and do everything they needed to do with two-wheeling figure of eights, and they did an audition Australia-wide for that show, and had there was, I think, 1,800 drivers Australia-wide applied for that.
Bloody hell.
And they auditioned well over 500, and then I got narrowed down to the top 100, top 50, then down to top 20, and then from the top 20, this is all done on driving. Like they throw us in an Evo 6 or 7. One at Tom Monk, that's his old cars, rally cars. No lock. So you had to figure out the car really quick, if you wanted to get it to work for you. And then, from the top 20, they only took 10 drivers. And, from the top 20, they took it based on interview and physical. So we did. It was a pretty grueling process.
That's
It was
wild.
good. Yeah. And so everything, the stars aligned for me, Scotty, really, in that sense that, I came off, having the confidence of winning the Queensland comp and placing in the Super Drift that year. I think I got second behind Josh Coote with his animal car. And my cars have always been David in the David and Goliath. So I've always had, I don't think I've ever had, or I've never owned a car over 500 horsepower to drift with. I've driven a lot of cars with over that, but I've never had a car that's over, I think actually probably 400. I'm probably upping it up a little bit there. My 32 back in the day was only ever 380 horsepower, and I'd come up against guys like Robbie Bolger in practice, and guys that had 3 times the amount of power. And yeah, it was fun. That's what I enjoy about drifting. Yeah, you can come up, you can enter the ring with some. You can enter with a knife into a gunfight and still win. In a way, that's the fun part. That's the fun part about drifting, is that you can still compete on something that a lower budget.
That's madness. And so then you made it through. So and it came down to an interview. So it came down to sort of personality and fitness.
Yeah.
In the final stages.
Yep. Yeah, maybe one. Lucky to just I just had my confidence was at a whole time low, all time high at that age. I was 24, 25 when I started Movie World, and
And how was that phone call? Because that's a hell of a lot of...
mega. It was huge. Yeah, it was a big change for me in a lot of ways. The opportunity to do that show with so many consummate professionals and be in the same room, let alone driving with guys like Warren Luff, and you had Eugene, who was also running Drift Australia, the full pro series. You know, he had the budget with a Ripper car, and Tony Harrison he's an absolute Queensland Ripper driver. To me, like 10 drivers that we had there at Movie World at the time were some of the highest, caliber drivers in the country, even though they may have not been well known in the mainstream, which was probably only what V8 supercars really in Australia, but at that time. But the level of driving, the level of the guys that they got for that was wicked. Progressed my driving. To be able to have that much seat time too, you think we were driving 2-3 shows a day, just constantly drifting day in, day out, smoking through tyres. We'd go through a set of tyres a day. Each one of us would go through, 5 or 6 sets of tyres a day, a week. The two-wheeling, like once you got used to the drifting, you never got used to the two-wheeling because it was always different. Your ramp hit. I remember people say, did you ever get nervous? There was the two-wheeling kept you on your toes because I remember the southern part of the arena, to hit the far ramp. First, you must put the car against the wall backstage, which was only a car width and a half wide. You've seen it. And then you had to 90-degree slide into the corner, and there was only about 2 car lengths you could do that, up to a roller door. So you, without hitting the roller door, obviously, slide at 90 up there. And then as long as you've got that part right, you hit the two-wheel ramp that's hard up against the wall on the left, and you pretty much had to tip the car up to the point where it was feeling like it was about to roll, catch it, and then two-wheel with 3 other cars that were doing the same thing and do figure of 8. So we were the first in the world that I know of that were doing figure of 8 two-wheeling, crossovers. So we had 4 cars out there, and in the first 2 years of the show, we did that day in, day out, every day. Yep. Yeah. So if you messed up that handbrake slide, you're going to have a fucking hell of a time trying to hit that ramp and get them in there. We had a couple of guys, wall ride it up and around. We had a couple of guys tip it over and turtle it. We used to call them turtles.
Perfect explanation. Yeah. You're not getting that turtle back over easy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because the two-wheeling stuff I always found ridiculous. I remember blokes, there was like a little bongo van with a wheel on the side.
Carl's, yeah.
Yeah.
Carl's,
that fellas were using to try and learn how to two-wheel out at QR. Yeah. I remember seeing that thing.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that was Mick Van Morsel and Carl Van Morsel. I can't thank those guys more anymore than I have. They were a massive reason why I got a start in with Movie World, and the whole process of setting my mind up not to just be a drifter, but to be a guy that can be a stunt driver as well, and fit into that mold that they needed for Movie World. Because before the audition, Mick had a stunt school, and it ran out of QR, and Carl was a young whippersnapper, which is his son. And I booked myself, as soon as I heard about the audition, I booked myself in because I knew it wasn't going to be just about drifting. It wasn't going to be just about car control. It was going to be about a whole lot more. And so I booked myself into every course that Mick offered to put my best foot forward, because I was a mechanic working on cars. So for me, and drifting was just a part-time casual thing that I absolutely was obsessed with and enjoyed. But I knew that I had to keep working on cars and swinging spanners as a mechanic to to afford that. And when that came up, to be able to be driving as a professional, off the back of not having money behind you, you take that opportunity and you do everything you can to put your best foot forward. And I did. Booked in with mixed courses, and I learned everything that he could possibly show me, from that 90 slide up to bollards and 180s. And I had the basic stuff already down that I knew what to do. But to be in the same, to be working with Mick, who is absolutely respected in the stunt industry and worked on massive movies, The Matrix, Mad Max, huge big productions, to learn, even just set etiquette from him, how to who to talk to and who not to talk to on the set, and when to be known and when to be at the forefront and talking about safety, and then when to disappear into the background and let other people take over what they need to do. So just little things you learn along the way. And yeah, he was awesome. He was a massive influence for me coming into that movie world process.
So movie world was really transformational for you.
Huge. Yep. It's it took a broke drifter, and it was a mechanic swinging spanners, to a lot more refined, I think, driver, a lot more aware, and I was able to work under Luffy for 9 years, Warren Luff, who's V8 supercar driver, and it just came from a different world than I came from. He's just got a young kid derbying on the weekend, smashing up cars, living in the wrecking yard. To someone like Luffy, who was already working with, I think it was with Red Bull at the time, with those guys, and had full-time drives in V8 supercars, and rubbed shoulders with a lot of people, that a lot of professionals, So working with Luffy, he was able to fine-tune a rough kind of drifter and help me in a way that it was able to be professional in an environment that didn't really demand it with drifting, and it opened so many doors with doing other things other than drifting. So working for different driver training companies and contacts, and I've worked for Toyota and Lexus for a long time, for Rick Bates and Neil Bates, doing car releases all around Australia for Toyota, all the recent Toyotas from probably 2008 upwards, when I started working Movie World, to Norwell, working out with Paul Morris and doing driver training there, and it was he moulded me into viewing drifting and motorsport in a different way that I had previously.
It's a hell of a transformation, isn't it?
Definitely.
From like streeter, drifter, to
going out at 2 a.m. in the morning, changing tyres in the back of the industrial block,
misbehaving.
Well,
to working,
wouldn't change any of it.
That's top tier. Working alongside someone like Luffy.
Yeah, amazing opportunity
for a young bloke, but then to take that on and run with it yourself and put the work in.
Yeah, I knew I just had to soak it up. I knew I just had to change my ways. Unfortunately, for the first 2 years at Movie World, Movie World slowly weeded out some of the drifters, because you're constantly breaking stuff and banging into walls and attitude and that sort of stuff. And when I took a step back and realised that this attitude, this mentality that some of those other guys came from the drift world had, I knew that wasn't going to work. And I was just lucky enough to have Luffy, who gravitated to me. I gravitated to him, and he showed me the ropes and how to hold yourself in a corporate sense. And he also, so Luffy was the driver. He was kind of like the leader in the driver pool for us, and got me to do a whole heap of media, talking in front of camera and doing Sunrise in the early mornings and the Today Show, and not only just standing in front of the camera and talking and being able to articulate what we're doing and putting on a show for what they're doing, but also then behind the scenes to be talking to the producer and the director. And, if I had that, that same young kid changing tyres at 2 a.m. in the morning out in the back of an industrial area, but you know what I mean? Like you learn. He taught me so much.
Have you ever talked to Luffy about that? Like what he saw? Have you ever sort of had that conversation with him?
No, I haven't really had a conversation with him.
Yeah, because I mean, he obviously,
I've told him how much I've appreciated what he did for me in those the whole time I was there at actually Movie World. So later on, once the show then came into Showtime FMX and Movie World then subcontracted that show out, Luffy then stepped up again and he was pretty much running the whole show, running the ins and outs of that show. I took over the workshop as well as performing and driving, but we needed someone to then maintain the cars as well. So we moved to the VESS Utes, which was a move that we should have done back when it was with Movie World, because the Evo 10s were just sucked them dry in the sense that we were always fixing. We turned a rear-wheel drive car, an all-wheel drive car, which is predominantly front-wheel drive, east-west motor, into a real, all the power, 100% going to the rear-wheel drive. And those axles were only made to take 30% of the drive, 30% in a normal car. So constantly braking half shafts. I remember the mechanics always saying, we're trying to come up with a different idea that we're going to put a GDR rear end in them, and that was going to solve the issue. But then they stuck with cryogenically freezing these half shafts that were constantly snapping, and had I think it was like $1,200 a pop each half shaft, and we would go through 10 of them a week, just snapping them from first to second coming out of the tunnel. Back in the early days, we'd all, one person would do a 360 and you're snapping second with 4 cars coming out of the small little tunnel, all drifting into the arena. And that's where it had mainly happened, just the load. The show cost a lot. And then also you had, guys that didn't give a fuck about the equipment, constantly breaking constantly breaking tail lights and headlights, because they're rubbing up on another car. Yeah, there's a difference, between smashing into cars and making the show, look like a derby, and then having it 2 inches away and having that control to to be able to stay that distance and keep that distance without breaking stuff. Because at the end of the day, the more stuff we break, the shorter term we had there. We had there, but we were going to have there. So.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So the switch to what was it, VE?
VESS, the Utes. Yeah. That was a game changer for everyone behind the scenes, because you got 6-litre LS now, and the rear drivetrain's made to put up with the torture that we were putting it through, and
so they just behaved.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Did they have to be dialed in much, or did they?
They were fairly basic for what they were.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we got.
Because even with the two-wheeling and stuff.
Oh no, we never did two-wheeling, unfortunately.
You didn't two-wheel.
No, we kept the two-wheeling in that show a little bit with 2 or 3 Evos.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
you couldn't, because I was just wondering. I was like, geez, how would that go?
Yeah, well, you need small tyres, right. So we were running 16s on those Evos.
Yeah, gotcha.
Utes were running 18s. You need that side profile tyre.
When you get it over on that.
Yeah, and they're pumped up to 70 psi just to hold the weight of the car. Yeah. Yeah. I built myself a two-wheeling ramp now, so when I get the itch to go two-wheeling myself, I've got my ramp there. It's actually sitting in my driveway at home.
On the driveway, how handy! Hey kids, watch this.
Yeah, no. So just in case we ever need it again, I built a replica of the ramp that we had at Movie World.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, mate, you got to keep those skills.
Yeah, well, it's funny with two-wheeling. I was just talking about it at Porsche the other day with Luke Yilden. It's a skill that you actually don't lose. It's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You can not do two-wheeling for 2 years and then hit the ramp and you go, oh, yep, that's where we
Yeah,
are.
you just remember.
Yeah, just remember.
Because you felt it, that place.
Well, probably doing it twice a day, or actually probably more because we did practice 4 or 5 times a day for 4 years or 5 years that we did it. It's ingrained.
Because Movie World obviously set up these additional opportunities for you, and I obviously followed you starting to go into commercials and, stunt driver stuff where you were literally gun for hire. And I've seen many things of you doing this now. When did when did those doors start opening?
Probably around 2011 and 12. I was working with stunt coordinators, obviously, for the show. We had Vic Wilson and Harvey Phillips and Mick Van Morsel, who were all involved in the show. And from there, they were happy to bring me on set, and I kind of started with a couple of commercials for a lawyer. We were chasing cops and robbers, kind of going for this lawyer commercial. It was one of the first ones I did. I can't remember it too much, but then moving on to just anything from kind of background driving to the forefront. Mainly TV commercials for cars that have been released. Like I've worked a lot with Isuzu. Isuzu do a lot of production in Brisbane. So I've done a lot of nearly every commercial for Isuzu in recent time. I've done. That's me behind the wheel. Isuzu D-Max, MUX. Got the opportunity to skid through the main street and it was Creek Street in.
I was going to bring that one up because that's one, and I was hoping I remembered the correct driver. But baking Brisbane CBD,
I did. Yeah, I baked it up. It was at the bottom of Queen Street, so they blocked it off for a Ned's commercial, and they said a week, 2 weeks out, they had me booked in as the driver, but they had no idea about what car they needed. They did. Sorry, they wanted a V8 supercar because it's a V8. It's a sports betting app, and there's Ned's, and they wanted a V8 supercar to skid. And I said, "Have you ever driven a V8 supercar?" And they said, "No." I said, "Well, I can tell you now. There's no lock, and it's going to be torturous. It's going to be problematic. Everything about a V8 supercar. It's great as a race car, but it was what they wanted. They wanted us to go full sideways through Queen Street and do the biggest skid you've ever seen going into Creek Street. It was massive, big, broadside drift. And they didn't, obviously. They're production people, so they had no idea. So I said, look, let's dress up a VF Commodore. I'll go out and find one if I can. I'll go out and find a car that's already set up for drifting, so we don't have to spend any money on putting a handbrake or whatever in it. Funnily enough, the guy I battled at Archerfield on the very last competition there, Shane Heathcote, he had a VF, and I rang Shane. I said, "Hey mate, can I lease that car off you?" And he said, "Yeah, absolutely, mate." So we dressed it up in this livery. I got a V8 supercar wing from Stone Brothers. I borrowed that off them, and obviously they're at Yellow. And I dressed this car up quickly in a week's time, over a week, and we got the shot. And we actually got the shot in the very first go, and then we had 5 more attempts at it. So it was pretty cool because it was a big commercial. So there was 100.
I remember that was a monster.
It was 120 people involved in the production side of that, and we had pretty much half the city locked down. Because they had greyhounds running up and down the road, the horses running up and down the road. One of the greyhounds, let me tell you this story. This is pretty funny. So 5 greyhounds. We had the camera car. So I drive the camera car too every now and then for various mobs. And it's a big. This one had a It's like a big Scorpio arm on it, and it had a squeaky toy on the end of the camera for these greyhounds to chase after. So it follows the camera, and it had 5 trainers up the top of Creek Street with greyhounds between their leg, and 5 trainers down to catch the dogs once this camera car went zooming down and the dogs running after the squeaky toy. And so the camera car, off we went, and 4 greyhounds ran after the car, and then they caught them at the other end. But there was 5. So these greyhounds are, fully dressed with their race numbers on and everything like that. One just went hard 90 up Queen Street. So we had 5 police present for locking down each corner of where we needed to go. One of the guys jumps on his bike, goes zooming up Queen Street, and radios back to production. We can't find this greyhound. We've lost this greyhound in the city. Couldn't find it anywhere. There's all these production people out trying to find this greyhound running around, the Brisbane CBD. 20 minutes passed again, and the general manager of the Queen Street Mall rings up and says, "We've got this greyhound here. Is randomly walking through this race greyhound with its number on, is randomly walking through the Queen Street Mall."
I was hoping you'd be drinking out of the fountain as well.
So it was, that was pretty funny. It was a good commercial to be a part of. We've done heaps since, and it was a good memory. We've done just recently doubled Travis Frimmel up in Airlie Beach. Spent some time up there for a TV series, a Netflix series called Black Snow. I don't do too much of it. I really wished I had had a couple of opportunities to move overseas, and and I've got some mates over there. Carl Van Moorsel, who I mentioned earlier, he's working in America right now. So he's lived and working in America. He works 7 days a week. Obviously a driver from Movie World, and has really done big things over there. Turley and Tim Cody, a couple other guys that were there too. Tim lives in Canada, working full time. 2.0, Chris 2.0. He travels a lot. Hanley. Another guy from Movie World. He lives over there as well, and they've had awesome careers. I didn't take that opportunity because I wanted to stay here in Australia, and I had a family, and there's a lot of things that obviously contributed to me staying. I'm glad I did, but at the same time, there's the work in Australia only really takes up about 2 to 3 months of my year, and then I focus on my earth moving company and my dealership and drifting and driving and doing and working for Porsche and whoever we need to. Yep. So it's could have.
Still plenty of good years in you though, mate.
Oh yeah. There's mate. I'm absolutely loving what I do. I enjoy every moment of it, and I've got a great family, loving family, and I'm enjoying driving hard again. So from Movie World, as great it was as it was to get some really solid seat time and comfortable behind the wheel every time I get in the car, because of that experience, and it's gone on to doing stunt driving and that sort of stuff. It teaches you to drive at 80%. So when the first year after I left Movie World, out of the cars there, I found myself not progressing past the top 8 in my drifting comps because I was being so lazy as a driver. So I got a bit of a rev up from a couple of my teammates and guys that my crew, some of my crew, and a couple of other drivers that I know really well. That just said, "Mate, stop being a pussy." Essentially, let's see that Trav that we used to see all the time, and it took me a good year just to really go, okay, well, now I've got to really throw down the level of competition. Back in the day where you could win a comp by just piecing together a lap, and not spitting out. those days are gone. You needed to really be on it. So yeah, I changed. Last 5 years, I've really started to work on my driving and focus on pushing it as hard as I can, but with keeping that smoothness that people know me for.
Absolutely, but it needs that aggression.
It does, 100%. Yeah,
and 80% won't get you there. Like
No,
steady
yeah.
as she goes, safe as you can be.
yeah. I was driving within my limits.
Yeah,
And then I really had to go. Oh no, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's make this.
Let's see what's possible.
Yeah. And so that gym that took me on the journey down with WiseFab and 370, and we've got a car in motion now. So I've got another 370 shell that we're building.
This is all news to me. Mate, tell me your story.
I never wanted to build a pro car after probably 2012. Like we had that VESS that we were playing with, and I remember talking to you about it, and we had some things in motion for that car, and unfortunately we missed out on Super Cheap in the 12th hour because Russell Ingall smashed that car up and we lost that deal. That was going to be a big deal at the time. So since then I kind of went, I don't need to build a pro car, but now I'm at the level where I'm like, let's do this, let's build a pro car. So I've got a 370 shell at the moment. We've just pulled all the sand ender out of it. I've been slowly accumulating the parts. So I've got a 410 Donovan engine, which is the same as Botch's. Josh runs the 440, but I've been talking to him a lot. I've bought that engine at the end of last year. Brought back a gearbox with me from the States with the cars that I brought back, the Jericho box, and just slowly piecing together a car. I've got a friend of mine that's going to fabricate it all. He's just bought a house. He's building a shed. We're going to be on the fabrication in about a month. So
I like this story.
Yeah. another set of WiseFab, another set of WiseFab front, and I'm using GK Tech rear. I'm turning 40 in a few days, so if I'm going to build a car, if I'm going to build that Goliath car instead of the Dave cars,
This is the time.
Yeah.
How long have you got till you turn 40?
A couple of days.
Really?
What day is it today?
I don't know.
Yeah,
4th?
I'm the 17th.
Get out of town.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks maybe.
How are you finding that? I found that to be quite an emotional time.
I remember going to my dad's 40th, and it was this big Hawaiian-themed celebration, and my wife and my friends are going, "What are you doing for your 40th? What's happening with And I usually know exactly what I want to do for my birthday. I usually know, I know who I want to invite. I know I know exactly what we're going to be doing, and I actually just wanted it to be a spontaneous thing this year. Not to say that's freaking me out, but I'm freaking out. I'd like to think that I'm not freaking out about it, and I certainly don't feel like I'll turn 40 and then turn into this old crippled man that's walking around. I still go to the gym, mate. Nothing's going to change for me after 40. But it's funny, it's funny. That
it's a big line. I found
really
it to be a
is,
huge,
yeah.
I spent that whole year of 39 going, fuck. Because it was a really big mark for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was like all the things that I'd hoped I might do or would be, or all the things. And I'm like, I'm checking the register, going, how have I progressed on all these things?
Yep.
And I spent a lot of time doing that.
Yeah.
And I'll throw it out there for you. I got on the other side and I realised I just don't give a fuck anymore. And that has been the best.
Yeah.
A lot of reflection.
Yeah,
in that
definitely.
time.
Yeah, hey, it's the last year. I reckon I've just gone out and done what I wanted to do. So, especially with the American trip, and then going to NZ, and just doing things that I'm not just going there for work. You know what I mean? Like I'm not with driver training and car commercials and that sort of stuff. I do a lot of traveling. So doing things that I'm not just there to work. I'm there to have a good time, and
It's for you as well.
Yeah, I'm going to change at the end of this podcast. I'm changing my birthday to a warmer month. So my mum's birthday is January 17th. I'm going to change it to then because
Much better time
Yeah,
of year.
it's horrible this time.
Terrible time
No,
of year, mate. It's
who
too
wants to
cold.
come
It's
out? Who wants to-
dark.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
Mate, I'm like at home under a blanket at 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah, exactly. No one wants to go out. Everyone's got a sniffly nose. You know what I mean? Like, oh, no, I'm sick,
Yeah.
mate. So
Well,
I
the
can't
kids are
come.
sick.
Yeah.
All the bloody kids are sick and you can't get out of the house.
Yeah, no. So I've a bit of a joke. I've been talking about it to my wife. I'm going to move my birthday.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, no, why? Who's going to notice? Who cares? Yeah, so, we'll...
Just need to go and spend a day at the skid pan. That's the...
Yeah, well, actually, Ray Lee round 2 is down... obviously, Ray Lee. That's coming up, so I get to hang out with some mates then. That was 22nd, 23rd.
Which series is that?
So they've got the Rayleigh Drift Series.
Yeah, right.
It's their own pro. So they have a pro and they have a like a pro spec series.
I'm so far out of it these days, mate.
There's actually a really good quality of car and quality of driver down there. It's only a fairly the series has been running for a while, but I've only just started taking notice of it just recently, just because Archie's finished up now and. There's a couple of things in the pipeline for QR. The Rev boys are doing some stuff, and I'd like to jump in on that. But I did the first round of Rayleigh this year, and put qualified 6th, put it on the podium. So
is this in your missile?
Yeah. The standard 370, 320 horsepower, whatever it is. Come up against some tough competition. Most of the boys have got 500 plus horsepower down there, 600 plus horsepower. So you can imagine what 370 looks like going up against those guys. But it's a great challenge, because if you don't nail it in that car, you're nowhere. So you've got to be 100% on that car.
You need your momentum and you need all the skills because you can't make up for it with bonus horsepower.
Yeah. You're pulling everything that you know. So that's the fun of that car, and everything that I've learnt from that car and setup and what we need to do, I'm going to just transfer it over into the next car and do the same. Replicate that with the 700 horsepower that I'm hoping to get from the Donovan engine.
I'm confident you will.
Yeah. It's going to be an exciting time for my driving. Have that,
mate. That engine that JB put in when he finally got that V8 in and sorted and behaving, that thing's just an animal.
Yeah, and it's super reliable too.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Sounds great, goes great. Yeah,
just works.
Yeah, exactly. It does. He's had some great success with that car. And
it's an animal.
I love driving with JB back in the early days. He used to have a FC RX-7. We used to skid up Archerfield. Yeah, it's good fun. He's we've been just having a couple of chin wags with him just about the car.
Very good. It's nice to see all the OGs coming out of the woodwork, because so many of us have had our heads down with families and children. And
and I went to Drift Matsuri. The Queensland Drift Matsuri, they're just gone. And I was so surprised at how many old people, how many of the older guys that I, grew up, banging doors with and that sort of stuff. Dave Brown, who else was out there? Vlad Nilsson. Just a bunch of the old, the older. Even if they didn't have a car, they were still out there getting back into it with their kids. They were walking around with prams or whatever. It was good to see.
Mate, it's just the best. But we're coming out the other side where you can see daylight again.
Yeah.
And you feel like you can.
And you're not so broke.
Yeah.
You're probably not so
broke. Mate, so broke for so long.
Yeah.
There's something about that raising kids bit that really tips you upside down.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I was fortunate enough, obviously, to be working as a professional driver. So I think that's probably kind of what kept me in the scene a lot longer than most, which was, I was able to, keep my bum in a seat and earn a crust while I had a family, while I was still raising kids. So,
see, my intention was actually to go out there. QR's piloting drift playground.
Yeah.
And Sharpie had told me about that, and I was going to try and sneak out there tomorrow afternoon, but unfortunately my schedule has misaligned because I've picked up this Barra-powered EL Falcon.
Yeah.
And
Barra-powered?
Yeah, boy.
Nice.
270 kilowasps at the tyres, so it's got enough.
What are you looking to do with that?
thrash the guts out of
do
it.
some fun events.
Mate, roll racing, drifting, like,
Yeah.
so streeter,
Yeah.
but
Mega.
with a bit of spice. in
Cool,
it.
mate. That's
'Cause
awesome.
I've sat on the other side of the fence. I've had 0 cars because I've spent 14 years doing this,
Yeah, doing the media side, yep.
doing this and trying to, pull it together. And I've just gone, if not now, when?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Because
There's no right or wrong time to start either. So get in there and have a ball, mate. It's yeah. If I think for everyone that has that, nitrous oxide in their veins,
you
mate,
got that
it's
itch,
it's an
and
itch,
you can't help yourself.
yeah.
I honestly can't help myself. I cannot drive a grown-up car. I cannot, day to day I can drive like a sensible old man.
Yep.
But having a car that goes, I can't get enough of it. Massive dose.
Yeah. My older boys, I did the Motorcana scene last year. So with the Holden Sporting Car Club, they did the Queensland titles up here, and then the Australian titles were actually held up here in Queensland as well. And I took out the Queensland.
Did you really?
Yeah, I took out the Queensland title with the 370, and I got second in the Australian titles with the 370. It was the Australian titles. It was raining, and the 370 set up for drift. So I'm just drift. I even in the Queensland titles, I was drifting everywhere. But I got beaten by this little Pulsar, this 60-year-old guy in a Pulsar, front-wheel drive Pulsar that was just ripping this thing around. Being able to pull this front-wheel drive car out of any corner he tips it into. The guy could. He's won it for the last 5 or 6 years, and I was kind of happy that I got even within a close distance to him. So it was pretty close at the end. I think it was maybe 1.7 seconds, separating us over 8 layouts and 8 timed layouts. And me just holding this thing flat pinned, drifting it in and out of the cones. So, it was. I'll definitely do it again this year. From that, I bought a Golf R because I saw the competition in the 4-wheel drive sector pretty high, and I met up with a guy who has a S1 Audi, and this thing just rips. It's like the launch control and off the line, and it's hooking. It's such a small little car, but it's got everything going for it. It's 4-wheel drive, and just rips through the corners, and I saw that competition and that pretty competitive. So I'm like, oh yeah, let's buy a 4-wheel drive car, and I bought this Golf R, and my boys pay me out on it, like Coder and Wiley, like, what the fuck you got that car for? Because it's completely different to any other car I've got. But it makes you just smile and giggle like a little schoolgirl, like, because it makes all little cracks and crackles and pops, and I drive down the driveway and goes, oh yeah, ba 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 ba. You can't help yourself but get a little smile, have a smile and a chuckle to yourself, and yeah, doesn't matter if your older boys think you're a wanker.
And that's it. Mate, who cares?
The funny thing is they get in and drive it and love it.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be like,
I know what he's got to.
You might not get the cool points for it, but it's less about that. It's more about the experience.
It is. Yeah,
makes perfect sense to me. And is that Holden Sporting Car Club?
Yeah.
That's the second time Andrew Price was talking to me about it.
Okay.
And saying what a wonderful way that is for people to get in and get involved.
It's the best grassroots. It's even cheaper than motorsports. Like even cheaper than drifting. Like it's you don't go through anywhere near the amount of tyres that you go through unless you're doing it like I do.
Yeah, on purpose.
Yeah, but it's obviously the grassroots form of motorsports, and I have no problems going back to that sort of stuff and then doing what I do elsewhere, because it's I enjoy.
You just want to do it.
I enjoy every part of it. Like it's the people. The people are really helpful, and I love with Motorcana, I love having to remember the track and then being in that pressure cooker to get it right. So, it's really tight stuff, but you've got to, if you don't remember and recall and use your memory to get around that track, you're messing it up.
That's one of the things I score very badly on. It's my memory recall in that short, what do they call it? Like your computer's RAM. So, yeah.
You've got the old dial-up going on.
Yeah, oh, mate. 28.8, and they've pulled the plug as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that speed.
Yeah, I can't say I'm perfect at that memory side of it either. My wife asks me, what my kids' birthdays are, and
It's in the diary.
Yeah, but is it the cloverleaf layout that we did last year, babe? I remember what time I got, and I know back to the front.
And that's the most frustrating part, I think, for the wives and partners is the mountains of obscure knowledge that you can recall on demand.
Yeah,
but
yeah, ADHD again.
Yeah, but when you've been asked to go and pick something up from another room, and then you walk back and you're like, "Why am I in this room?"
Yeah, you got to bet. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I'm not sure why I'm here.
A bunch of useless facts too.
Yeah, I remember I was supposed to be doing something. Oh and obviously the car stuff.
Yeah.
And you're and you're there chock a block full of it. I've got to go and check out the old Holding Sporting Car Club. I hope they like a Ford. The Ford would be a terrible car to do it in, but I sort of don't really care.
Well, there's a Class there for you.
Is there?
Yeah, Class D.
Big old sleds.
Pretty sure it's Class D. Yeah, because I'm Class C for the 370. It's all just based on wheelbase. You'd have an awesome fun time out there with that thing. You gonna lock the diff?
Am I gonna lock?
Yeah, of course you are.
The bears do number twos in the woods.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
I had another mate sending me LSDs going, "This is my diff guy."
Yeah, exactly. That's great. We had a ball. It doesn't really matter what you drive, as long as you're having fun. I just spent time out with Dylan Cottle with Skid Control. I've worked with Dylan before in the past, but because we have mutual interests, we kind of kept in touch since, didn't constantly work with him. It was just in the early days of when he wanted to try and get the drifting and the diesel skid pan at Mount Cotton off the ground. And I think he had a couple of days there where he was, he was MIA, he was doing other stuff, and I filled in for him. But kept in touch ever since, and recently asked me out, or just this weekend, asked me out to his property. He just bought 400 acres out at Thames, just past Warwick, 40 minutes past Warwick. And it's got a bunch of rally tracks on it. I think they used it for the Leyburn rally or Leyburn Sprints or something like that. Yeah, I think it was something to do with that. He has a bunch of guys come out and test out there. He's got massive plans for the place, which is really exciting.
Because it looks unbelievable.
Oh, it's awesome, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
He had a Vitara. He's got a Vitara with a roll cage in it. It's got V6, it's, I don't know, 100 horsepower of glory, whatever. It wasn't that fast at all. And this little Mitsubishi Mirage, but, mate, we had a ball. We're jumping this thing over the jump that he's got at the rally track, and we're hitting the flat pin at 120 k an hour, and doing that as well as then throwing the kids in with the Mitsubishi Mirage. You can move the seat right forward, and that was really fun. It was really fun to see my boy have that same look in his eye that I had when I reckon I would have had it. It actually brings me to tears. It's just thinking about it, to be honest. Like I could see it. I could see that look in his face. And it wasn't just for my son either. It was for my daughter as well. So, to be able to facilitate opportunities, those experiences with your kids, that brings you back to your own childhood.
But also, you think about how that stayed with you, and how that will stay with them as well.
Absolutely.
Dad took us out of here and this was just mad.
yeah. They had a great time. I'll definitely head back. And massive thanks to Dylan. Like he asked us out there, because he's still getting he's charging for people to come out and camp and stuff like that for testing and that sort of stuff. But he asked me to come out and just spend the weekend with him and him and his family. And I brought out a couple of friends of ours. We camped out there, had a just relaxed, chilled vibe, and had a bunch of great fun time on the dirt tracks. We actually, a friend of mine, Shannon, filmed it all, so it'll be probably on my Facebook or Instagram. Not that I'm about that, but you know what I mean. Like
you need to.
It's great to have those things to look back and remember.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. So we spent a bit of time out there, and Dylan's got big big plans for that place. It's going to be sick. He was talking to me about putting in a bitumen track later on down the track. He's got some off-road track sectors there that it's going to be really cool. He obviously, with Skid Control, he does the skid, obviously the diesel skid pan at Mount Cotton and a bunch of stuff up at Lakeside, whether it be the skid pan or racing track on the track and circuit racing and rally, and he's a bit like us in that we just love everything, every form of motorsport. He's the same. He loves drifting just as much as he loves circuit racing. I think he actually got into motorsports through drifting in South Africa. So he's carried that passion for drifting still, even though he doesn't do a lot in the drift stuff that he does. In recent terms, like competing and doing that stuff. He has a drift car. He's got a 350Z that he's set up really well, and big plans not only for his property, but he's also got a racetrack that drifting's never been to in 60 years of its history. So to have that opportunity for us to go out to that track, I can't mention which track it is because we're still trying to get it across the line, because the committee members have been, obviously they're circuit racers, they're so set in their way, and it's taken a new committee member to come in and give them some energy for drifting to happen at that particular track. Actually, one of the committee members was sitting there when drifting was mentioned, threw his paperwork in the air and walked out of the place. Walked out of the committee meeting. So they've managed to get him around and turn his frame of mind around and into the point where he turned to the general manager and said, "Hey, okay, so when are we going to give this drifting a try?" So that's really positive. Changing the way that other forms of motorsports look at drifting is important to me because of that Luffy, that mentorship that I had from him. We can do drifting in a professional light. We've all come from backgrounds of having to do it in a non-professional light, like changing tyres in the back of an industrial area at 2 a.m. It doesn't mean that we can't change ourselves and progress drifting, because changing tyres in the back of an industrial area at 2 a.m. is not progressing drifting.
Not at all.
It's grassroots. So, and there's no need for it anymore.
No, there's not.
You've got heaps of tracks and heaps of opportunity to do so. Unfortunately, Archie's closed now, which was a great facilitator for the grassroots stuff. But, hopefully we can, with this track in mind, hopefully get something else off
Hopefully
the
we
ground.
can fill that void. And I've got to commend QR on, putting effort into Drift Playground and opening up more sessions. And, like, the community needs those places, screaming out for it.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's lovely to see, and, people like yourself, working hard behind the scenes, trying to bring these sorts of things together, for the benefit of everyone.
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge opportunity that we've got to take it out there, and we spent a day out there with our cars and drifting different parts of the circuit and figuring out what's going to work and what's not going to work at the same time as having those committee members come out and view and see what we're doing and see what we're about. So
Massive.
It is. It's huge. It's
massive.
It's good. It's great.
And it's the sort of PR that drifting needs, because there's a lot of, because again, drifting was my way into motorsport because everything else had, 10-foot fences around it. You can't walk into a supercar paddock and go, "G'day, can I hang out?"
Yeah.
Whereas drifting, you're like, "Can I hang out?" They're like, "Yeah, mate, here you go. You can change some tyres." Like, there's something to do.
Yeah.
You can get in and they're welcome to have you there because it is,
we've got an
grassroots
awesome
motorsport.
community. Absolutely.
Wonderful people.
There's an awesome community there. There is a obviously with anything grassroots, you're always going to have people that don't completely understand the culture that come in, that whether they feel entitled or just want to do burnouts at the front of the racetrack and cause a ruckus.
You get dickheads and everything.
You do. You get
Unfortunately.
but we don't. That is not.
No, we
our
teach people that's not welcome.
And that's not drifting.
No.
So, from my perspective, if we are able, especially with the OG guys, if we can, do it right and show the other guys that are coming up,
Demonstrate
through the
leadership.
Exactly.
And, teach
Actions
them the things that Luffy
speak
taught
louder
you.
than words. Yeah.
Absolutely. And show them that, there is a whole, and mate, honestly, you are a beacon of that. That, there are paths out there for people that want to become a gun at car control. There are pathways and there are things that you can do to commercialise those.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Yeah. Well, the perception of drifters, has changed. I think it is. It's constantly changing, which is great. I told you a story about how I got in with Porsche. Thomas Mazzera. So we did the release for the 911 at Movie World with Luffy. So it was Luffy and I with two 911s, and it was a drifting show in the Movie World arena, and I met Thomas Mazzera, who runs the Porsche Experience for Australia. Now, the Porsche Experience is for a driver trainer, it's the most work, other than Mercedes and Audi, who do it really well in Australia as well. It's the most days you'll get as a driver trainer. So he runs that experience. It's an experience with the full fleet of Porsches, ranging from your top of the line 911 turbos to your Cayenne and your everything from the Taycan electric to the Caymans,
Boxer,
everything,
wow.
absolutely the whole fleet. So we get the range of the whole fleet. We do level 1, 2, and 3. So level 1 and level 2 is at Mount Cotton, and you get to cycle through each car, get a good test of what the capabilities are. We do things from the skid pan to racing around the circuit to LVMA braking and swerving, and it really gives you an idea of and the capabilities of what the Porsche is. And that's what Thomas provides with the Porsche Experience, all the way up to you can race a cup car if you wanted to. You spend, I think it's 14,000 plus or whatever for the level 5 day and race a cup car. You've got to go through all the levels first, obviously, to get there. But there's nowhere else in Australia that you can go out and race a race car after progressing like that. And I think the GT3 Cup Experience level 5, I don't think they really do that around. Porsche don't actually do that anywhere else in the world other than here in Australia. So it's a great, he provides a great opportunity. Anyway, I was talking to Thomas after we did the release of the 911 back in 2011, and that didn't sound right to me in my head then. I went 911 in 2011.
It's a lot of levels.
Yeah, a lot of So, we did the release for that. And so I spoke to Thomas afterwards, and he said, I said to Thomas, hey, look, if there's any opportunity for, taking on board another driver trainer, I'd love to come out, and because at that stage I was working for Toyota and Lexus and Rick Bates, and I started to doing a lot more driver training and a lot more working in different, the new release cars, and he turned around to me after I asked him whether I can, if fill in or wherever I could. He said, "No, I'm sorry, we don't take drifters." And it's taken me 11 years. I haven't hounded him. I actually got I worked on a job for Honda with Craig Baird, and Craig loved. Craig and I became pretty good friends, and Craig put a nice thing towards Thomas and said, "You need to get this guy in. He works just as hard, if not harder, than any of our driver trainers that we've got." So it was a big rap for Craig. He's a cool dude. I was humbled by that. It was we got the foot in the doors and with Porsche, and started last year, and it's been great.
It's bloody amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Honestly, that's it, mate.
Yeah, well, every single driver trainer. Well, not every single one, but a majority of them. You've got Fabian Coulthard, Luke Yilden, Davey Russell, Dean Canto. They're all V8 supercar guys. Stevie Owen. If they're not in V8 supercars, they're guys that are attached to that big racing kind of motorsports heritage in Australia. And Stevie Johnson is out there. Craig Baird. Craig's a ripper dude. I love Craig. He's so funny. God, he has me in stitches all the time. He's very quick-witted and got the best one-liners.
It's a hell of a thing for a bloke that did his apprenticeship in a car yard.
Yeah, swinging spanners.
Swinging spanners, skidding dungers.
You got to start
to, Porsche.
Yeah, experience. Yeah.
It's not bad, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Not bad.
Appreciate
Done all right. Scrapped up all right.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
What's next? What's the trajectory for Mr. Travis Roberts once you turn 40 and get over that hurdle?
The new build, the Goliath car, will be fun. We'll see what competitions are around when I finish that. Hoping to get have that finished before this time next year. So if I can get that going, then great. Definitely looking at opportunities to drive in New Zealand. So there's a couple of guys, 2 teams that I have in progress of talking at different stages now to maybe compete over there. That's on a personal fun note, and then obviously just keep doing what I'm doing with the driver training and the stunt work and the stunt driving and
and the cool cars coming out of the States.
Cars. Yeah, we've got packing containers. So with the connections that we made, obviously with Drift Week, I already had a few friends over there, guys that I've worked with before on different gigs, and so when I realised it wasn't about driving the American trip, I started piecing together a container. It was always an intention to put a container together of cars. I've done a container before from the States in 2014 with a friend of mine, and we brought a couple of cars back and had a good time over there while doing so. And I wanted to do that again. So we bought 2 C5 Corvettes, one black, one red back. I got a 32 GDR. Yeah. So I was staying at Jimmy Oakes's place up in 20 minutes out of Thompson. So the last track that we went to for Drift Week was Thompson. We stayed up close to Jimmy Oakes and got to hang out with him. He's a cool dude, awesome guy, great, massive into cars, huge on YouTube and Instagram, that sort of stuff. And we just this GDR. While I was up there, I bought this R32 GDR, and so got it back here, and bought a 68 Camaro as well. So 68 Camaro was damaged. A friend of mine, Devon, helped me with that one. He's based out of North Carolina. FYI, if I was ever to move to America, it would be North Carolina, Charlotte, anywhere around that. It's just a motorsports mecca. There's NASCAR, rally, everything there. On every corner you drive down, there's a motorsports shop selling something to do with cars. So it's it was awesome. I understand why Devon lives there. He took me. We found this car while I was with him at Copart. It was damaged. I buy wrecked cars over here all the time, so a smashed up car doesn't bother me. The 68 Camaro, it was someone had put $100,000+ US into this car. It's got a LSA, it's got a TMI interior, PWR radiator, TR60, built TR6060, big modular rear end, IFS front end, power steering, and these massive big Budnick wheels on them. The Budnick wheels, unfortunately, were smashed up. The 12 grand set of rims if I wanted to replace them, or we're going to do something sacrilege there. You'll wait to see. I just ordered a set of work CR2Ps for it. So 2-piece. Yeah. So I'm going to put Japanese rims on the American muscle. So we'll see how many haters are there. But honestly, it's going to look sick. I can't wait. That car I'm probably most excited about, as you can see.
I can see you lighting up talking about it.
Yeah. So the GDR and the 2 Corvettes are probably cars just to bring back and sell. I've got the red one on the market now. But the 68 Camaro, actually, I want to. It's because it's got like it's what they call a Detroit Speed front end. So it's got the IFS power steering rack with upper and lower control arms, which is completely different to obviously the standard. And it just handles like a new car. It drives like a new car. It doesn't have the lock of a drift car though. So we've got some R&D work to do. It's got 30 degrees of lock, so we'll definitely smash some more into that. I've got we'll do some fabrication where we can get big lock out of that, and hopefully you'll see a 68 Camaro drifting around Queensland.
I would be so happy to see that.
This would be cool. It's going to be a cool car.
Mate, it's just nice to see some good sleds coming out. If you've seen Levi Clark's drift or rat roll.
Yeah, Levi and I have spoken about doing something together. I gave Levi, just before the gravy roast, I rang him and said, "Hey, dude," ever since I saw the build, I actually said, "Mate, if you need any help, let me come over and give you a hand." Because I've got a 32 hot rod 3-door. I've got a 32 hot rod that I'm building, a 3-window with a 6.4 litre Hemi in it. And I said to Levi, I said, "Mate, if you need a hand, let me know." I don't obviously have a lot of free time, but you know, I love Levi and I love what he's about, and I love that build. And I saw he was busting ass on it to get it to the gravy roast, and he had it out at Mitch Pullen's place. And so I rang him and I said, "Dude, you need help. I know obviously you're not going to ask me. I'll come down and I'll give you a hand." And I came down. I went down the next day, and I think I just did like brake lines and got some brake calipers sorted for him, and we took the hat off and ran the oil lines and water lines and helped out where I could. But it's so cool to see that build, and there was so many people that jumped on that to give him a hand. And look, the situation that he's in with the whole cancer thing right now is a huge bummer for such a ripper dude. So yeah.
No, it's been a hell of a roller coaster for him. So
I bet.
It's been lovely to see. Well, exactly. It's been lovely to see the support.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I hope that our community's like. Just jump in and give him a hand, and it was awesome to see the car ripping around Rayleigh.
I saw some photos of that, and I'm like,
yeah, mega.
It just looks awesome. Yeah, so yes, I fully support. I just love how you've bought this car to sell, and you're already planning on how you're going to drift it.
Oh no, not the Camaro.
Not the Camaro. That's
always,
for you.
That was always a keeper. That was always a keeper. I've got a real soft spot for older cars. I've got my HK Monaro and obviously the 32 3-window that we're building. I bought a 72 Gen 2 Camaro from down south, hit the front. And I've just ordered all the parts to bring back in another container from America. That's got a 454 big block in it. Sounds like an animal, goes like an animal. That'll be just as cool as the 68, but I know what I'll be like. I'll probably finish that and I'll sell that. Because the 68 is what I want to park in the garage.
That's the one.
It's just got reliability written all over it too, with the LSA and the drivetrain, and imagine the 68 and Levi's hot rod just.
And somebody's done all the hard work. That's the other thing. That somebody has spent the money. Some other poor bastard.
Yeah, exactly.
Has bled to build that.
I suppose that's a great point to bring up. Yeah, I
ran out of talent in it.
Yeah.
Probably leaving a car park, mate.
Yeah. He smashed up the front and the rear quarters a bit bent. So that's. I've just ordered the work wheels for it, the CR2Ps, and so they're running a 18 by 9 plus 12 on the front. Sorry, 18 by 8 plus 12 on the front, because I want it small so I could get some extra, as much lock as I can, and then. 18 by 11 and a half with a neg 48 on the rear.
Big boys.
Yeah, it's a big dish because the diff is right up to the rails. So, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, the skinny. The one thing I learnt from America, going through all their drifting over there, was that they don't have any stretch on their tyre. So when I hung out with Vaughan and the RTR team, their cars are set up with really skinny fronts, and the rears, there, I think he said there were 18 by 9s rears, rims. Japan and any other culture, especially still here in Australia for your hot boys, they're stretching the tyres and flattening the cars down until the guards are touching the tyres. But I've always been about function over form. Yeah, so I don't really care that my car is 2 inches in the air as long as it works and the suspension is working to its best, and I've got heaps of grip and all of that. So yeah, like they were fitting a 305 tyre on a 9. It's super stretched. Like you have a look at the sidewall on the RTR cars, and yeah, it's like running the whole principle of drag racing and getting the grip down, running those big tyres and stretching them out. So yeah, obviously not going to be any good for the Camaro with the 11.5s, but I've ordered another set of rims.
Yeah, you got to have specific rims for. Yeah. I'm right there with you. You got to have that.
There's a little bit of show there, I suppose.
Yeah.
In that car, but yeah, I've ordered another set of rims to go drifting when we get the lock in that car.
See, I'm also very interested in the hot rod. I must say, as I go further forward in my life, my car love keeps drifting further and further back in time. And
time machine.
Oh, mate, I really look at a lot of those, like the 32 Ford, early hot rod stuff.
Yep.
With just wild fabrication and real talent, real just beautiful artwork.
Oh, for everyone associated with building those cars,
Building
for
those
sure.
cars.
Yeah, I'd never built a car from scratch. I mean, I've built drift cars before, and I've built old classics, but the hot rod was a car that I wanted to go. You know what? Let's build this one from
Ground
bones.
up. Yeah.
So
from a set of rails.
I don't particularly like older engines. With 302, Windsor and that sort of stuff. I'd rather the modern engines. So we've got I bought a Hemi 6.4 litre V8 for that, and Buckner is doing 8 HP things. So he's got this gearbox out of BMWs, and he's turning these 8 HPs into sequentials. Essentially, they're a cheap box. They're about $3,000 to buy out of an old 328 i BMW or 2012 onwards, I think it is. But you essentially they're putting these 8 speeds even in drift cars. So they're manualising these auto boxes. Off a potentiometer meter on a fake kind of clutch pedal. So, wow. Yeah, you're able to turn an automatic into a manual with this potentiometer meter, and it allows
you clutch as well. You can disengage.
It allows you to slip. It acts like just a normal clutch. Yep. So you've got this 8-speed sequential. So essentially you've got a sequential, He says, I was talking to him actually yesterday about it at the racetrack that we were at, and he said, at the high end, if you set up a Hollinger or, a TTI box or whatever, a proper sequential box, he said you don't, those boxes, obviously, if you set them up really nice with the way they change, they're obviously quicker. But he said with the 8 HP for drifters, one of the Gravy Garage boys, Brent, has got it in his car. He's been doing some R&D with it, and he loves it,
mate. Those
sequential.
Those boxes are going to go to the moon, aren't they?
Buckner's booked out.
He would have bought up the national supply.
He come back from Fiji on holiday just recently, and he said he didn't want to turn his phone on because he knew it was going to go mental. Yeah. So the whole purpose of me telling you that was because that's the gearbox I'm putting into the behind the Hemi, because they actually come out in the Hemi. So the 8 HP, the 8 HP comes out. It came out in the 300 SRT.
So you can make it made up.
Yeah, well, it's already I just bought one with the same bell housing. So I just bolted on. So he's gonna obviously finish and do the wiring and the clutch pedal for us. But
Wow.
Going to do that in the 32. The 32 is not. I'm not going to set up for drifting. It's just going to be a cruiser.
Lies.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't believe you.
Might change.
I don't believe you even one little bit when you say that.
Oh, you know what? I'm probably going to finish it and go, no, this car is rubbish. I can't go sideways. Let's go. So, and then I'll be rebuilding the bloody thing again. But
just do it out of the box, mate.
Yeah, exactly. No, well, it's got the old Coca wheels on it and stuff at the moment. So I do have different cars for different purposes, and they're not all drift orientated or race orientated. So yeah,
because you need a tow car for your trailer.
Yeah, yeah. I've just recently set up my tow car is a 2021 model Nissan Patrol with a VK56 in it.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm not in love with that car. I like it. I'm not in love with it because it just costs me so much on fuel. But it's a good four-wheel drive and it's a good tow car. It gets you around and it's nice and big. So I suppose kids love it.
Does the job.
Does the job. Yeah. Well, as long as you're getting from A to B where you need to go to, it's good. Yeah.
Now, mate, we've been talking for nearly 2.5 hours here.
Holy shit.
I'm going to wind you up.
Yeah, cool.
Travis, if people want to find you on the internet, follow your adventures, follow your YouTube videos that you never make, where can people find you? I'm
at Travis Roberts 101 for Instagram and Travis Roberts on Facebook. I've got an athlete page there, but don't go to that, guys. Just add me as a friend. It's easy. But yeah, the Instagram is Travis Roberts 101, and you can get anything from like my builds there to family life to drifting. I don't like I'm not actively looking for sponsors, so I don't just kind of do product reviews or target just drifting or just racing on my Instagram. It's a bunch of everything. It's just all the adventures of. Yeah. And actually the note that I did want to finish on as I laugh, because I think I can't pass up on this, was the reason this conversation even came about was I was just scrolling Marketplace, as I tend to do, and it was actually this gorgeous red Corvette that caught my eye, and I jumped in and had a look at the listing, and I really hope my wife isn't listening to this. And then I saw that it was you that had the car up for sale, and I'm like, oh, what are the odds? Here I am, and I just had to reach out to you, and I'm like, mate, I went. This is the universe bringing us together. 100%, yeah. Through this chaos and stupidity. I'm a big supporter of you, mate. You do great things, and like you share the same passion as I do, and it's just fun talking to people like yourself and like-minded people, that share the same passion. Well, the funny thing is, mate, we've gotten older, but we haven't got any smarter. We're still just as stupid, still doing the same stupid things. We're just more capable now. Exactly. Yeah, we've got more money to tip into it. So, whoops. Well, on that note, Travis, thank you, mate. Thank you, mate. Thanks for having us. So grateful to have you here. And for everybody listening, I'll catch you next time.